Remember those old Saturday morning cartoons, Wile E. Coyote, the Roadrunner?
Yes.
Remember when the coyote would like run off a cliff and he'd get a good 50 feet out there before he realized
And his little feet would like keep running.
And then he realized finally that there was nothing underneath him and he fell?
Yes.
That's a metaphor for life, really.
Yes.
Anyway, we're going to talk about it because you actually almost ran off a cliff, literally.
Well, skied off a cliff, yeah.
And anyway, metaphorically, we run off a cliff about every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about it. Here we go.
All right.
Welcome to the Let's Quit podcast.
Quitting is not always a bad thing.
If you have the right mindset, quitting can be the most powerful tool you have on your journey to success. It's certainly been helpful for us.
Whether it's flying through hurricanes, building our businesses, or just trying to get to bed on time, we're always trying to level up and improve our lives.
This is the show where we share the lessons, experiences, and friends that have helped us live this incredible life. So let's quit the bad and grow the good together.
All right, so thanks for coming back to the Let's Quit podcast. We absolutely love having you guys here. If you're a first-time listener, thanks for joining us. If you're a repeat listener, thanks for coming back. We really appreciate you.
This is episode 56.
56, I know.
We skipped last week. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, I was out of town. We'll get into it, but we had a lot going on. Anyways, if you want to share the show, we would really appreciate that. Something as simple as just texting it to a friend or sharing it on Instagram or whatever really makes a big difference. We'd also love a review in your podcasting app of choice. That would be awesome as well.
And if you want to donate financially, we'd really appreciate that too. You can head over to patreon.com/jennieanddavis and pick the tier that works for you.
Yes.
We'd really appreciate a couple people over there that help make the show possible. So thank you so much. And yeah, let's dive into it. Where have you been, Jenny? You're back.
Gosh.
First off, you're back.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
It feels so good to be back. I mean, now that we moved into this new space, every time I'm gone, I miss it so much, and I can't wait until I get back. So I was out flying winter storms with our Air Force unit. A lot of you know we fly through hurricanes, but hurricanes are not all that we do. We also fly ahead of winter storms. We drop weather instruments and get all that data and send it out so it gets into the forecast for everybody to see and use. And so I went to Mississippi first to our unit, and then from there I flew out to Sacramento, the Sacramento area. That's where we fly out of, just so we can get further out into the Pacific, because that's where a lot of those storms start as they make their way to the coast. And yeah, so I was there for a while, did a lot of flying, got some skiing done, and some wine tasting.
Yeah, so talk about that. You literally ran off a cliff.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
I don't have a whole lot of experience skiing. My first time ever skiing down any sort of hill, it was a bunny hill. It was a small bunny hill. I think I was
that's
like,
where most people start.
Yep, I was like 15 years old. But that's the thing. There was no option to do anything more than a bunny hill. It was at like a church camp thing with my friends, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we totally have a hill for you to go down." And so we would all just like keep going up and down this bunny hill like 15 times every single day. And so that's the experience I had. And then last year when I flew winter storms with our unit for the very first time, I decided to go back out skiing because I'm like, okay, I've done it before. I've at least like hit the bunny hill before. And I can learn as I go. And I was with a few other beginners. So I rented skis, and it was amazing. We had so much fun. We had a really good time.
Yeah, but you didn't run off a cliff that year. Talk about running off a cliff. People
Yeah.
don't want to hear your whole experience.
But like this time, I thought it was going to be the same because I stayed on the easy routes, greens and blues. But at this place we chose to go skiing, to get to the greens, you had to go through a stretch of blue.
Which, I've been on this route. It's a very difficult blue.
It's very skinny and narrow.
Yeah, there's lots of trees.
It's a little steep for a beginner. Like, I mean, that's why it's a blue, right? Because it's a little harder than a beginner's route.
But it's also very narrow, lots of trees. It's a skiing route.
Yes.
It's not a snowboard blue. It's a skier's blue,
Yes.
which is much harder.
So on each side of this route, was a full-on cliff. One went down into the snow, into the rest of the ski resort. It was very steep. And the other side went down like
So what happened?
Rocks and trees and stuff. And so I get off the ski lift. And I'm like, all right, guys, I got this. It's going to be great.
Did you fall off the lift?
No, of course, no. The lift is like the easiest part. I don't think I've ever fallen off the lift, thankfully. And so I get off the lift successfully, And I start going down this hill. And I'm like literally saying affirmations to myself out loud. I'm like, you got this, Jennie. You got this, Jennie. As I'm like kind of like slaloming or whatever down the hill. I'm like, all right. And then I start going a little faster and pick up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm starting to lose control a little bit because it's getting steep and really fast. And it started to freak me out. So then I just started saying affirmations louder. I was like, you got this, Jennie. I'm like, at this point, I'm like screaming at myself on this hill. I'm not even kidding.
I'm sure there was some other words added to your affirmations at this point too.
Yeah, well, you know, whatever it takes to get your confidence up. And then all of a sudden my skis get like stuck in the left position because it was kind of icy. They hadn't had snow there in a while.
Okay.
And so the routes were icy. And so I'm like, oh no. And so I just try to like sit down like on my butt, just to kind of like stop. And I was like, okay, I don't need to go any further. And I also don't need to go off the cliff. Well, I slid on my butt because it was icy all the way off the side down this cliff. And so I go down about like 5 feet down the side of the cliff, and then all of a sudden, and I'm like screaming at this point, I'm like, help, help, help. And my friend was a little further down the cliff, and he just kind of stopped and looked up, and he's like, where is she? Because you couldn't see me, I was off the side of the cliff.
Oh my gosh.
And then as soon as I yelled help for like the 3rd time, I stopped, and I was like, oh, what was that? And I looked down, and there was this little wooden fence that they had put up for people just like me.
Oh,
and so
that was nice.
Yes, it caught me, and then there were some metal poles along the side of the cliff also that I was able to like grab onto. And then there's this really, really nice old couple that stopped at the top of the cliff, and they're like, do you need help? And I was like, yes, please. And so I took off my skis and handed them to them, and they like found my poles for me and like helped me climb back up the side of the cliff. And I was like, thank you so much. And they're like, oh, are you new to skiing? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, why did you choose this route? And my other friend had come back for the moment. He's like, oh, well, this other guy we were with told us that it would be like kind of a simpler blue and it would connect to the rest of the greens. And they looked at me in the face and I said, yeah, don't listen to him anymore. Like, this is not an easy route. They're like, you need to choose, like, make your own route. Don't listen to other people.
Oh my gosh.
Like, they're like, ski to the beat of your own drum or something like that. And I was
gosh.
like, yeah, that's probably true. But anyways, it was very scary. But as soon as I noticed that there was like a fence to catch me, I was like, oh, we're good. I'm not the first one to do this.
Right, but that just means you stopped screaming. So to your friend that heard you screaming and then all of a sudden he didn't hear anything else, he thought you like fell to your death because you immediately stopped screaming.
And he was poor guy was so traumatized. He's like, I heard you screaming and then I looked up and you just weren't there and you stopped screaming. And he's like, the screaming was scary, but it was scarier when the screaming stopped because then like you don't know what happened.
Well, it was great. You know, they're all friends because all those guys texted me saying, Jennie almost died today. Before you ever called or texted me anything. So I knew something was up. But anyway, fun adventures.
Well, but then I got back up. Did you ski
the rest of the day?
I did. I skied the rest of the day. I got back up and I was like, all right, well, that was fun. Let's just not do that again. But then I had a good time the rest of the day. I don't think I even fell ever again.
Nice.
Kind of a fluke.
You got some nasty bruises on your thighs, though.
Yeah, when I fell that time, because like I said, it was icy. It was frozen over, and
you probably landed on your skis at some point too, right?
I don't even know, man. I don't remember.
Anyway. I'm happy you're here, and
Me
I'm happy
too.
you're alive. That was sort of the impetus for the title topic today. We thought, how can we turn this into content? And that's what we do. That's what you do when you're a content creator. You never waste a good crisis.
Yes.
It's a saying in the music industry. But yeah, cool. So you're back. I got a new haircut.
Yeah.
I've been experimenting with my hair the last few days. I don't know. I'm just excited to have hair again.
Yeah.
For almost over 10 years. I was following military standards for my hair, and there's not a lot of fun to be had in those regs. And
Not really.
Finally, I've just decided that nobody cares. I don't care anymore. So
I certainly don't care
Even though
anymore.
we're still in the military, you know, I'm a play in that gray area, you know? Like,
yeah.
Because used to you get a haircut, and like they'll come around with a tape measure and measure your hair, and if somebody gets upset enough, then they'll go tell you to cut it. But like, I don't know, not in our unit, and
No, it's pretty relaxed.
Right. Well, I mean, it's reserved, so like everybody understands. So you get to play more in the gray area.
Yeah.
And I guess what I was saying is like back on active duty, I was doing everything I could to just stay below the radar and not be in trouble. But now it's like I see you guys once a month. Like, yeah, I'm gonna make an effort to get my hair in regs, but
yeah, but no guarantees.
No guarantees. So anyway, I'm just having some fun with it. We'll see.
Yeah.
Trying different things. I think I finally settled in on something that I like.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's definitely longer now,
Yeah.
on top of it, at least.
Well, it's been since my junior year of high school that I've had long hair. And then that was it. I mean, I had long hair. I had like long Justin Bieber hair.
Yeah.
As-
Swoopy, like,
As
surfer
much as
boy.
past me doesn't want to be identified as someone with Justin Bieber hair, I definitely had Justin Bieber hair.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing back then.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's more content, I guess.
Yeah. New hairdo if he looks different in the YouTube videos
Yeah.
and stuff.
While you were on the side of the cliff, you made a sale.
Oh, yes. So after I fell down that cliff.
It was like the next day. You were like, or was it? Oh, it was that afternoon.
No, it was that afternoon. So we were driving home from skiing, and all of a sudden my phone rings. I'm like, guys, turn off the music, turn it down. I'm like, I've been waiting on this phone call all day. And in the car ride home from skiing, I sold like 10 boards to a realtor or something.
Nice. So for those of you that don't know, we have a woodworking business, furniture business, and one of the things we do is we sell cutting and charcuterie boards to realtors as closing gifts. And so Jennie got a random phone call she was expecting, not expecting. I don't know. At any given time, there's about 20 realtors that owe Jennie a phone call.
Yeah.
And they may or
much.
may not ever get back to her.
Yeah.
So
That's accurate.
anyway, so she made a sale skiing on the side of a cliff.
I'll take it. That's fine.
Good for you. Good for you.
Thank you.
I'm happy for you.
that made the fall worth it.
Yeah. We also got a lot of mail while you were gone.
Yeah.
We had somebody reach out on Instagram, another Houston local, made us a really beautiful mallet. You'll see that in the YouTube video this
Yeah.
week. We also got our YouTube play button for 100,000
Yes!
subscribers. Did you see
Okay,
that?
we kind of got that like a while ago, but I was gone.
We got it like the day after you left.
I know, and I told Davis, like, you're not allowed to open it without me.
So that's where we are. And then we also got probably the highlight of the YouTube video this week.
Yes.
We got a board returned to us from an unhappy customer. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't know. I don't know if you're hearing this before or after the YouTube video came out, but either way, a customer just straight up lied to us and told us that there was something wrong with the board that we sent them. But when we got the board, we sent them a replacement board and they mailed us the old one back. And then when we opened the old one on the YouTube video, oh my gosh, they straight up destroyed it. And
Yeah.
they were sad that they destroyed it. And they just straight up lied to us and got another board.
Well, and that's the crazy part too, is like, they're like, oh yeah, there was just a drop of water on it, or like, oh, there was a ring on it from where we set the water bottle down.
Right, he said we set a water bottle on it and there was a ring, and there was not a ring. They had set something hot from the stove on the board and it burned the board. And then they tried to put the board in the dishwasher to get all that off of it, and it obviously didn't. So now the board has no finish on it. The board has these giant burn marks.
And the reason we know they must have put it in the dishwasher is because we made a video a couple years ago of literally putting our boards through the dishwasher because we wanted to know what it looked like when a customer.
Just so when we had this issue,
Yes.
we would be able to not give them a refund or not give them whatever. I don't know. Maybe not give them a refund, but like we would know what happened. But because
Right.
they just straight up lied to us, we just thought that they were unhappy with the wood because they were kind of cryptic. They were like, oh, there's some spots that appeared on the wood. And we're just like, spots. And I'm thinking like sometimes with UV light, like some discolorations and stuff will just happen in wood. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe that's what happened. And then it's like, oh yeah, we set a water bottle on it and it left a ring.
And I'm like, okay, why do you set water on something wooden? That's why coasters were invented. But anyways,
customers are silly. And anyway, long story short, we are not super torn up about this. This is why we price our items high,
Yes.
because we knew 2 years ago customers were going to put the
Yep.
board in the dishwasher. Now, maybe we didn't think that they'd lie to us and try to get another board, but maybe we probably should have thought ahead and thought that that's what they were going to do.
Yeah.
So, especially now that everybody's spoiled with Amazon and all these other companies that can afford to do stuff like that.
Right.
So, in order to stay competitive, you've got to be able to stay competitive. And so, anyway,
that's why you price appropriately. So
Right.
that when things like that happen, you're not out of money. Like, we still made money on that board.
right. And it, like, as upset as we are that they lied to us, that they took an extra board, like, I'm kind of smiling on the inside because 2 years ago when we set our prices and we were guessing what would happen, we already accounted for something like this. So we're not losing money.
No.
It
Still
just
made money.
Right. It's just our worldview. It's just our faith in humanity is the only thing that's destroyed.
Yes,
Not so
unfortunately.
Not our business. Our business will be just fine.
I was so shocked when I opened that. I was not prepared for how bad it was going to be.
Right, because I opened it because when we sold a bunch of our scrap wood, I was just going to throw that board in the box of scrap wood and give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And then when I opened it and I saw what had happened, and I remember what you told me, I was like, oh my gosh, Jennie needs to see this.
Anyways.
So, yeah, that was a learning experience for sure. I'm glad that we had accounted for it, but I don't know. It still kind of sucks to know that people are going to be stupid.
Terrible.
And mean. But that's life.
Yeah.
Humans suck. Thanks for joining us on the Let's Quit podcast.
That is all. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, so we got a lot of stuff in the mail today. But while you were gone, though, and sort of approaching the title topic here, like, I think this is the first time I did not run off a cliff while you were gone. I usually make bad decisions while you're gone.
Because you started to go a little crazy.
Yeah.
But I get it. It's hard when you usually have a second person to discuss things with, and all of a sudden that just turns into one person and the dog.
Right. Well, I mean, you don't get to anchor yourself with, you don't get to, what's the word I'm looking for? You don't get to compare your craziness with somebody else's craziness to balance each other out.
Did you just call me crazy?
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
All right, Jennie, hit him with the quote.
We don't get a quote for this one.
Whoops. Oh, well.
Stop running off a cliff. Don't be crazy.
Jennie White.
Yeah.
Great quote. Yeah, so running off a cliff, what do we mean by that?
I feel like running off a cliff is like sometimes we do things that aren't smart, but then we're like too far gone by the time we realize it's not a good idea. So like you make a decision and then you're like so laser focused on it that by the time you realize maybe this isn't the world's greatest idea, you're all in and you don't have the wherewithal to like step back and make a change. Or
well, you can't step back because you're
You're
Wile
on
E.
a-
Coyote. You're floating on a cloud,
Yeah.
and you realize that there's no ground beneath you.
right. But
Well-
and then it's hard because at that moment, like you feel like there is like no way that somebody could ever possibly convince you to change because you think you're so right. But then in
Well, it's
hindsight, you're like, I was so wrong.
It's hard too because you've got to balance it because there's something to be said for staying committed to your goal, whether or not everybody else thinks you're crazy.
Right.
Like,
There's
you know how
something to
many
be
people
said.
have told us that we're not going to make a woodworking business work, but yet we've been doing it for 2.5 years now. Like, everybody told us not to start a YouTube channel. People in the Air Force literally made fun of us. We were treated as crazy because we were doing that. But, you know, it's a subtle balance of doing the right thing, but also you got to verify your results in reality. I guess that's what I'm saying. Is you can't anchor your results in what other people say about it. You have to anchor your results in, am I getting what I want? Am I getting closer to my goal? And I guess that's what we have to realize is forget what everybody else says about us, but are we getting closer to the goal we've set for ourselves?
Yeah.
And if we are, okay, keep doing it. Or maybe you try to improve on it. But if not, maybe it's time to, like you said, take a step back, or at least wear a parachute. If you're gonna run off a cliff with an idea, or like, oh man, this could go wrong. If you're like, we are not advocates of avoiding risk,
Right. Or
But-
not taking big chances.
but if you're gonna run off a cliff, at least wear a parachute. Have a way to land on your feet safely after you take the risk.
Right.
If it doesn't work out, okay, what are you gonna do after that? How are you gonna fix that? How are you gonna turn that into something useful?
So I feel like this is something that's really hard to describe, like exactly what we mean by like running off a cliff and finding a balance of, when it's good to do it and how to be careful. So we're just going to go through stories of times that we personally have run off some cliffs and kind of what it looked like and what our thought process was and how we snapped ourselves out of it before it was too late.
And maybe after hearing a few of our screw ups, you can maybe triangulate and figure out times where you've done the same, and then we got some action steps for you, and we'll get out of here. So cool. First story. What's on our little list here? Davis wanting to buy jet skis in Minot. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
All right.
So let's set the scene. We lived in northern North Dakota.
So let me tell my version first, and then you can tell your version.
My version is better.
Well, I'm the one running off a cliff, so I get first crack at it.
Fine.
All right. So when we were still in Minot, North Dakota, it was our last year there, and we were basically leaving in the fall. And so we were going through one more brutal winter, and maybe around April or May, it would warm up, and we'd have one last hot girl summer. that we could just enjoy ourselves, go to the lake, have fun. Our favorite thing to do in North Dakota was when it got warm enough was to go to the lake and water ski and stuff like that. And we had a friend that had a boat, but he was leaving. So we weren't going to have a friend that had a boat. And I thought it would be a great idea to buy a couple of jet skis. And we could spend all day out on the lake with all of our friends. 2 jet skis was enough that we could bring, a crew of friends out there and do water skiing and other lake activities and just have a really good time. And so it was in my mind, it was worth it to us to spend a little bit of money just enjoying that last part of being stationed in North Dakota. And I knew, and I thought I was avoiding running off a cliff. That's the ironic part. Because in chapters of life where I'm waiting on the next thing, that's normally where I have problems. And so we already knew we were going to move to Mississippi or Texas, and we had the hurricane hunter's job lined up, and we knew we were going to pursue the woodworking business in a bigger capacity moving forward. And I thought, my sanity is worth the few $1,000s or whatever this summer just to have some fun. Well, in hindsight, I realized that was a terrible idea. But that spring, you could not have convinced me that jet skis were a bad idea.
Yes.
Now, Jennie gets to come in and tell you all the reasons that jet skis were a stupid
bad
idea.
One, they were rather expensive, and we were about to switch and go into another phase of life. And whenever you're, moving and changing jobs, it's nice to save some money and not blow a whole lot of it before you do that. And also, North Dakota's cold. 9 months out of the year, 10 months out of the year. And so, we wanted to get these nice jet skis, and we'd only be able to use them in July and August.
Right.
Half of August.
But it was worth it to me because it was our last summer there and I want to have some fun. Also, what you didn't mention was that we were trying to sell our house, which wasn't going super smoothly at that time.
Yeah.
We actually ended up owing some money at closing just because of the market fluctuation and everything, because we thought we were going to be in North Dakota much longer than we were.
And we were there for a very short period of time.
So we're upside down on the house. We're still paying off our last little bit of student debt. We had a lot of financial incentive not to buy these jet skis, but I was just convinced that it was worth it, and our sanity and our happiness was worth it. And I was about to make a really dumb decision. And I had even consciously understood that it was a dumb decision, and I wanted to do it anyway. I'm unstoppable.
Unstoppable.
Is basically what I'm saying. Jennie has an impossible job when I latch my identity to an idea.
And it's hard too, because jet skis are fun. I would not say no to going out on jet skis.
Well, that's the thing is Jennie had given me permission. Well, you had given me a budget.
Yes.
And I just obviously I couldn't find what I wanted for that budget.
Which is why I gave you the budget that I gave you.
Anyway, always marry a woman smarter than you. But yeah, I was just going to run off a cliff with this poor financial decision. And I don't think it would have crippled us, but it definitely would have hurt us.
Yeah.
We ended up selling the house. We ended up getting out of debt and all that. And then we saved up a bunch of money when we both got the hurricane hunter jobs. But there was a time where I didn't know I was going to get the hurricane hunter job. And that's a whole other podcast. But had we spent the money on those stupid jet skis, I don't think I would have been able to sell them by the end of the summer and get the money back. And we would have been in a pretty rough spot.
And we would have been I think we would have more so been upset with ourselves looking back. And why did we do that? We'd be kicking ourselves, and it's just, it just wouldn't have been good.
Yeah, but it was, whether you call it divine providence or luck or whatever, but we did not end up buying jet skis and everything worked out. But anyway, that was a time where I was in a place where I knew I normally made bad decisions.
Yeah.
I even knew that, and I thought I was avoiding it by making this decision, and that was another running off a cliff decision. So anyway, that's a textbook case of what we mean when we say running off a cliff with a decision is you're not, I don't know. And I guess what I was chasing was happiness, which I guess is flawed because happiness is always unreachable. You're never going to be happy all the time, continuously. Your emotional state is going to ebb and flow.
Yeah.
So I was chasing a moving target, which is never fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was no way for me to see if I was approaching my goals, right? Because I either had the jet skis or I didn't. There was no way to test to see if it was going to be what I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I had just made up my mind that these jet skis were going to unlock happiness. And now stepping back from it, it's very easy to see that I would not have been happy because they would have broken, or I would have had to get spare parts.
Right.
And like if you've ever owned a boat, you know that it just doesn't work all the time. And
Yeah.
so, anyway.
And it costs money.
And it costs a lot of money because it's not just the price of the boat. It's also you got to pay
The
for
trailers and the
registration
maintenance
and then
the gas.
And you have a blowout on the trailer, and then
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyways,
so
that's our textbook example of what we mean by running off a cliff. But we've done this several times in life. Like we said, we always find new cliffs to run off of.
Jennie's way of running off a cliff is not even running off a cliff. Jennie has a little bit of trouble. I love you, but Jennie has a little bit of trouble getting started sometimes.
Yeah.
Even if she's got a good idea. So on the flip side of this, on the other side of the same coin, is like Jennie will not get started with something. She will not even run any direction because she's so scared of running off a cliff. So you want to talk a little bit about that? And
yeah, it's just, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, a cliff could be out there. And they're like, but do you see the cliff? I'm like, no, but I sure as heck don't want to start running and find myself in front of a cliff. So I'll just stay here.
Yeah. So give us an example of a time where you've done that.
Man, I think a lot of it happens like in business too, where I want to make a decision or I want to branch out or reach a new person or try a new tactic. And then I'm like, that could go wrong, or it has a high probability of not going right. So let's just chill, or I'll do it differently, or I won't go full throttle on it. I'm just going to do it average. And then if it doesn't work, whatever, I'll try something else.
Right. You don't want to put too much effort in because then you'll be disappointed.
Right. But if I would have just gone full throttle, there's only like a 2% chance it might work. But man, if it works, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. So I would say that so you don't do that as often anymore.
No.
Are you reading my mind, and do you know where I'm going with this?
I don't know. I think kind of, but I'm to the point now where I have avoided good outcomes so many times that I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm done. I don't even care anymore. I'm just going to do it full throttle. If it doesn't work, I don't care, because what hurts more is watching other people do what you had the idea for and it going well for them.
Yeah. Yeah. But the mantra that I keep feeding you is like, look, they're already not making you any money. Like, it's already failing. By you not trying, they're definitely not going to buy anything from you.
Yeah.
So you might as well try and increase your chances 1 or 2%.
Right.
So anyway, that's
what I've been saying to myself for months. It's
right.
like, they're already not buying for you. They're already not a client. You might as well try something crazy. And if they say no, then you're just right back at square one.
Right. So whether you run off a cliff continuously or you are afraid to run because you might find yourself near a cliff, maybe, possibly, with about a bunch of what if questions. You've got to run. You've got to run.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't stop running, and you can't just run blindly. You have to do both. You have to run with your eyes open, and that's hard.
Yeah.
So we've got one story. We got out of all the times we've screwed up, we've got one random story where we did it right, and we want to share that with you. So a couple months ago, we were getting close to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Jennie was gone. I was in another one of those states where Jennie was gone. I was all by myself in my own crazy, and I got the random idea to start posting videos every single day on YouTube. I was just going to vlog every single day, and that was going to push us over the edge. We're going to get 100,000 subscribers. It's going to change our audience to want to watch more vlog-style content instead of more project-based content. And it was just going to be the greatest idea ever and sustainable forever, right? So started watching a bunch of Casey Neistat, and I'm like, okay, how does he do this? How does he make a video every single day? How do I do that? We bought a bunch of cameras, stripped everything down to its bare necessities, and tried to go. Now I can't listen. Now I can only hear the Jungle Book song now that I said bare necessity.
Bare necessity.
Anyway, so I started making YouTube videos every single day, and it wasn't long until I realized that had backfired.
Right, like the analytics were showing that they weren't actually growing us like we thought they would.
The videos were getting fewer views. It was great the first 3 days. Then after the first week, I kept doing it because you got to balance
the thing with YouTube.
You can't just give up after doing something once or twice. You got to let it see if it's going to take or not. And so we did it for over a month, I think.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that month, we finally realized you came back and it was sustainable. We could keep doing it, but it was not giving us what we wanted.
I think when we looked, it was actually hurting.
Right.
the
Every video
analytics.
was giving us fewer views.
Yeah.
People were skipping videos because people just don't have the time to watch a video every single day of us two clowns.
And then we're like, well, we definitely don't want to do something that's hurting the channel.
Right. So we were growing slower. We were getting fewer views. We were making less money. It was actually kind of crazy how much it backfired. So we realized that a video every single day of the week was not as advantageous as it used to be on YouTube. And so, but because we were looking at our goal instead of what was enjoyable to us, it was so much easier to say, all right, we can stop this. I liked making videos every day.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was a lot more work.
But the goal was growth. And once we stopped seeing the growth, then that's what snapped us out of like running off a cliff.
Right. And we had also put on a parachute, metaphorically, because we also said, look, we just need more reps in storytelling. We need, like, Jennie and I are just bad storytellers.
Yeah.
Like, I know you guys probably love the podcast, but we are such objectively terrible storytellers that we just wanted more practice. And so we thought if we can vlog every single day for at least a month, we'll learn how to make a story out of anything. And we did. We got much better at storytelling. We got a lot of reps in for making videos. We got rid of a lot of unnecessary fluff from our video production process.
Right. Yeah. Cameras, mics, like anything extra, we completely cut out of the process, which was nice.
Right. And then I was editing much faster. It took me an hour and a half to edit a YouTube video instead of the standard 3 days.
Yeah.
Just a lot of good things happened from that. So we grew from it. Even though it backfired, we got something out of it, even though it went wrong, quote unquote, went wrong.
Yeah.
And then from there, we were just able to move forward and not second guess it. Now we have more data. Now we know that the sweet spot is 2 to 3 videos a week of maybe 1 or 2 different style of video, just to give some variety in there. And if we ever have the wild hair to put out more content, then we know exactly how to do it now. So that's just an example of us running until we saw the edge of the cliff and we said, let's not run off of it. Let's just run next to it, on the edge of it. And
then when we saw it didn't work, we were like, all right, let's turn around and go back to camp.
Right. So I don't know. That's just one random time where we magically pulled it off and did it right.
Yeah.
So let's try to double down on the things that we did there. So moving on to the action steps for today, finally. So the first thing is do this little experiment that we did. Write out all the times that you have run off a cliff with a bad idea.
Yeah.
Whether it's worked, whether it's backfired, any time where you have like really like pulled up your pants and said, all right, let's run at this thing. And
whether it worked or didn't work,
just identify them.
Yeah.
And then see if you can notice a pattern. When do you do these? Is it every time you break up with your boyfriend or girlfriend? Do you run into these situations? Is it every time that you change jobs, or is it every time you move? Is it every time you're waiting on the next thing to happen, like it is for us?
Every time you're bored,
try to identify the pattern there, because I guarantee you there is something similar among every single one of those times that you do that. And then try to figure out what it is, and then just know next time you go into that, like, hey, I normally turn into a crazy animal in these situations. Maybe that'll help slow you down.
Yeah. So make it more predictable.
And if you can't think of anything, second action step, ask your friends for stories. And be prepared for it to sting a little bit. Okay. Go into this knowing that this is for self-growth and that you're not going to demonize the person for telling you the truth because you asked for it. But ask your friends. Be like, yo, when do I get crazy?
And make sure they're like good friends too. People, who respect you respect them. Maybe they're close to on the same life journey as you are, and make sure you're doing a good job picking out those people.
Yeah. But just ask them like, hey, like when do I get crazy? What scenarios in life do I run off a cliff with a bad idea? And they'll be able to tell you.
Yeah.
The Roadrunner always knows when Wile E. Coyote is running off a cliff.
Because he's not the one running off of it. He's standing off to the side saying like, oh, I think that guy's about to go off a cliff.
So anyway, that's our show for this week. Welcome back. Glad to have you.
Yes.
Anything else? Any announcements?
Man, I think that's pretty much it. Just trying to get caught back up.
Yeah, I'm tired. I need to take a nap.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening, friends. We'll catch you on the next one. How long was that one?